Hi, I'm Nikki Brown.
I'm Katie Tyner.
And I'm Mackenzie Toller.
This is our case study for EFD 620 measurements and evaluation. The purpose of this meeting is to analyze data and to identify strengths and opportunities for improvement. Our roles for our assignment was, I was the PowerPoint builder, Amanda Tyner was the recorder, and Mackenzie Toller is the leader. Step 1, what parts of this data catch your eye? One thing that caught my eye is all the red. A lot of students are failing. 71% of, 7 out of the 15 students failed. That is 47% of the students did not pass or master these standards. 71% of the students passed multiple choice questions, with 29% failing. Open-ended questions, 21% passed, with 79% failing. Short answer and combinations answers was 50-50. 50% of the students passed and 50% of the students failed. What catches my eye the most is when students need to write answers outside of multiple choice, they're struggling. What do you ladies think?
I think short answer and open-ended responses are a pretty common issue in any subject area. They're definitely tough to teach and they're tough to do, but it's definitely important to get in those real world connections with this open-ended responses. And of course, with the ACAP that they're having to manipulate more and to have more input in their answers rather than just strictly multiple choice. So I definitely think that Miss Esperanza needs to go back and look at the open-ended responses, because I definitely think that those are important later on for these students.
Yes, and I also believe that maybe they didn't go over they focused on multiple choice because they did so well. Like the numbers were really high, but the short answer and combination, it didn't seem like she had many objectives to shoot for, like those standards. She didn't have those objectives that reached those objectives. So I think they should probably, like when they reevaluate, to focus more on that part. So what does the data tell us? The class is failing with the average of 56%. That's over half. And only 43% scored higher than a 65. Students are still not understanding percent that in the pre-algebra, that percentage was really low. Students know how to solve linear equations, but failing in writing and graphing linear equations. So they know how to solve it, but they are also failing with writing it out and graphing the equations. System of equations is by far the class weakness. The learning and target and the objective was not reached. What are y'all's thoughts about this?
Definitely looking at the overall scoring. it's pretty evident where there are some discrepancies in the how to solve linear equations, especially writing them, and I think it was like actually writing them out and then solving based off of information that they might be getting from, let's say, a word problem or something. So it would definitely be beneficial for her class to go back and to reteach some of those things. Uh, and again, these higher order thinking questions are a struggle. Um, they're getting most of the easier ones. Like we have a 100% correct on a multiple choice question for identifying functions. So they can definitely identify, but when they're asked to apply that identification to a higher order thinking question, that's where they struggle the most.
Yeah, they're not being successful in algebra, but the data, just looking at it, they're doing pretty well in pre-algebra. They have the foundation, but something has happened. Something's missing between those pre-algebra skills and the actual algebra skills. So I don't know what happened, but there's some kind of gap there that we're going to have to focus on.
Do y'all have anything else on this?
No.
No, I think we're good.
So what does the data not tell us? The data does not show us what the objectives she had set for the semester. This data also doesn't show any accommodations, IEPs, or 504, and her assessments may not match her learning outcomes, so content validity. So it's hard to look at these test scores and see what her learning outcomes were because they were so spread out. Like the pre-algebra, you don't know if she focused more on pre-algebra, make sure they had that foundation, but then she missed the learning outcomes for the algebra 1. We don't know what kind of test she gave. Did she design the test, or was this just a common test she got from the book? So that might affect the overall scores as well. And we also don't know the accommodations and IEPs and 504s. We don't know if certain students had to be in a small group, have extra time, or anything like that. So what are y'all's thoughts on what the data has not told us?
Kind of what you said with that pre-algebra, with this being an algebra class, that tells us pre-algebra was taught probably last year, and this was a refresher for them. So it wasn't new. They had prior knowledge, they knew these things, and just that refresher, they were able to show that they knew those skills. This algebra 1, standard 1, and algebra 1, standard 2, those were probably new. And they had not seen that material before, so they weren't familiar with it. And that may be some of the struggle.
I agree. And also something else, if she is just one of, let's say, 4 math teachers in her particular grade, we don't really know if this was a common assessment either. So if it was, her own written assessment, if it came from a textbook series, or if it was a test done by somebody else, maybe the department head. Mm-hmm. So all of these things would contribute to the type of data that we're looking at.
Another thing is you don't know really how they learn this information. So just like in the past year, we all, went through this hard transition from going face-to-face, doing the, the normal style of teaching face-to-face. And then all of a sudden March, we went online. So you never know, like maybe before Christmas, or they took a lot of time on the pre-algebra. And then like after Christmas, they started algebra. But then maybe the way they learned had to change due to, just COVID-19, or she could have, like, what if she was pregnant? Like, you never know, like if she was not present. So like just, life could change those learning outcomes and affect these grades as well. Because, you never know, anything could be unexpected. So that's just a thought to put as well, but definitely need to, regroup and refocus on the algebra. So are y'all good with this?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So what good news is there to celebrate? So most of the students demonstrated prior knowledge to pre-algebra. They did very well. The only thing they really struggled with the pre-algebra was the percentage, and that was kind of low, but we can always, but and students were passing when the questions were multiple choice. So they do know how to eliminate. So that tells me that maybe the students are good at eliminating certain answers, and then maybe if it's 50-50, they were taught how to choose the best one. 100% showed knowledge in identifying functions, and 89% of the class can solve linear equations. So there is a very good baseline, as we talked like before. It's just building on that baseline for algebra.
Mm-hmm.
What are y'all's thoughts about this?
I agree.
I think it's like you said with the pre-algebra instruction, like they definitely demonstrate prior knowledge in the pre-algebra, and so those things that came from pre-algebra, those teachers really made these types of skills stick. So we definitely need to look into some strategies from maybe the pre-algebra department that may help and assist the algebra teachers.
Okay. Yeah, there's small victories here. All right.
What are our next steps? What did the data suggest? What is suggested by the data? Miss Esperanza, some things that she may need to help her if this is a problem that lies with her teaching, maybe some peer observations, maybe she should be placed in a coaching cycle or go in to observe some of her teammates, whether they're math teachers or whether they're English teachers, because good teaching is good teaching. It doesn't matter what subject area it is. And there's something she can learn from other content teachers as well. As far as instruction, maybe the students need to be put into small group or definitely increase their writing in math. We need a testing blueprint to make sure what we are teaching is what we're testing, to make sure those learning objectives are being measured in her assessments. We need some formative assessments, maybe something that goes along the way, like an exit slip. That way she knows at the end of each day whether or not she's met the outcome. Instead of just assuming she did, she'll have some proof that she did, or if she didn't, she knows that she needs to reteach the next day. And we need to have some higher order thinking questions, that depth of knowledge, increasing from the multiple choices, just as simple of working it out and picking that right answer. Now we need to be able to apply what we had, and maybe that's some of what's going on in the writing. They're being asked to apply that in a way that they're not used to. So we're going to have to increase that in our instructions. Mm-hmm. What do you ladies think?
I think formative assessment is very important, just to making sure that the small tests, seeing those small victories to make sure they have that understanding would help them a lot, because there's obviously a gap here. But formative assessments, that's huge. And definitely maybe gearing it toward the higher order of thinking questions with her formative assessments to get better outcomes in the future.
Yeah, I was definitely going to mention formative assessments too, because that's the easiest thing that a teacher can do to gauge student understanding from day to day. And so implementing more formative assessments would help Miss Esperanza better gauge, like you said, to to know if what she is teaching, if she needs to reteach before giving a summative assessment. So last, we'll look at some conclusions and some recommendations. So of course, the data that we're looking at does support a number of positives and negatives. The students are demonstrating prior knowledge and pre-algebra skills, which of course is a positive, but they are struggling in several tested standards that will probably need to be retaught and retested. Open-ended questions and higher order thinking questions should be a primary focus as well. And it is discussed that possibly Ms. Esperanza could observe fellow teachers and take notes on successful teaching strategies. It doesn't matter what subject area it is, as long as she's learning from her fellow teachers. Ms. Esperanza would also benefit from being observed by possibly her mentor teacher, like seeing those and getting some constructive feedback from those observations. It doesn't necessarily have to be an administrator, because we all know that those types of things are very intimidating. So maybe possibly a mentor teacher, because we don't really know if Ms. Esperanza has been teaching for a long time. She may be a first-year teacher. Either way, just having a mentor teacher would be very beneficial. So these observations would come together in one-on-one meetings, and that would help between her and her mentor, and she can discuss some strategies that she saw, and that would help her out with her assessments. We did mention before about blueprinting her assessments. This would ensure that all levels of questions are apparent and give clear data for the benefit of her students' success. Once all of these suggested methods are implemented, another end of unit assessment should be analyzed for changes, whether it be for the good or for the bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
those were good.
Yeah.
Definitely the blueprint test, just to make sure it aligns with her objectives and outcomes.
And most definitely to reteach and retest. With 60, with so many students failing, it's hard to imagine that it's all the students' fault. I do think there's blame to be shared by more than just the students, and we got to figure out what that is and how to remedy that. So I think reteaching and retesting is very important for their success and for hers.
Yes, I agree.
And I think this will conclude our discussion on Ms. Esperanza's Algebra 1 data. Thank you for watching our video.